Why, hello everyone, and welcome back to Fandom Power.
We're back again.
We are back again. We are your hosts. I'm Wes.
I'm Andy.
And this is episode 3 of our little review series that we like to call Fandor. The titles keep writing themselves. The joke is never going to get old.
No, can't wait to see what the next one's going to be. But this week, we continue our weekly episodic breakdown of the latest Disney Plus Star Wars series, Andor. And tonight, our beat-by-beat review will still cover all the deep dives and tackle that third episode with all the Easter eggs and greater lore connections that you've all come to know and love.
I love them.
They're fun. And they take you to weird places.
Gourmanda, anybody?
Well, I got a good one this week, too.
Whipster.
Not that good, but slightly good.
Do I need to run that clip again? If you didn't hear it the first time.
That's right.
No, I'm not going to do it.
It's a good clip, though.
Okay, I'm going to do it. Oh, no. I turned the volume off.
Stir whip, stir wah!
Oh, by far one of the deepest dives ever.
I'm sorry, I can't get over that. Sorry, episode 3. Yes, we're getting to episode 3. This one, if you were starting on this one, you might go, oh, it's just another Star Wars show. Because this is the one I feel that has the most,
Star Wars.
It has the most Star Wars action.
True.
It has our first full-on, blaster fight, I guess.
Our first blaster, our first speeder chase.
Which was a lot faster than the one in the Book of Boba Fett.
A little bit.
All right, the con is yours, sir. Take us through the episode.
Let's go through this. So episode 3 is titled The Reckoning. It's originally aired Wednesday, September 21st, 2022, along with the other first 2 episodes. Once again, written by Tony Gilroy, and again in the director's chair, Toby Haynes. We've got a runtime of 36 minutes without titles and credits, or 43 minutes all in. And we kick off the episode, and we find young Casa. And it's in the past. We're back there, and we're on Canary, and we find him carefully making his way inside the downed ship. Now, I'm not sure if this is an exhaust port or like an actual entry point, because it does have that same, octagonal shape.
We did see
that we've compared before on other ships.
I know back in episode 1 and episode 2 at the crash site, we did see these sort of octagonal shapes on the exterior of the ship, whether they were ports of some kind, but clearly, judging by that image, that's not ground level where he's entering.
No, he's had to climb up to it, but he makes his way inside and through the corridor, and he comes across a couple dead bodies of 2 more crewmates, and he pokes them with his blowgun. There's no sign of life. And
no,
these guys, their skin tone is like yellow.
They're kind of jaundiced.
Yeah. But on one of them, we clearly see a Separatist crest patch visible on his uniform there. And Casa, he pokes this guy as well. But in doing so, some sparks flash, and surprisingly, a door opens in front of him. And Casa enters a room full of screens and instrument panels, and looking around, he catches a glimpse of himself in one of the very reflective surfaces.
Oh, yeah.
And you get the impression that he hasn't seen his own face in years.
Right.
And he pauses for a moment, gets his hand on his cheek, and then he just flies into a rage, and he starts striking at the panels. So
it's hard. It's hard to imagine the motivation where this is coming from. You got any ideas what you think this is?
My only thought is maybe ships from afar came and did whatever they did to the planet, and he is now.
I think some of these kids are old enough that they remember coming here. I don't think that they are necessarily. I don't think all the kids are native to the planet. I think that there was a labor force at some point.
Okay.
That the Canary. Well, maybe they are native. I don't know. I just get the impression that, oh man, there's something more going on here. I don't know what it is. I do think that the older kids, especially like in episode 1, when the ship goes over, that girl, she's waving at it. Hey.
Yeah, like she still thinks Hope could be.
There's some recognition there, and I think that there's also some recognition here. Recognition of what? I don't know.
Yeah. But we cut to the present, and we're in the scrap yards, and a welder works away on this giant ship,
Oh yeah.
and he cuts a section, and it just falls loose, and this giant section of hull falls to the ground. And then
Maybe the nose section off one of those Venator Star Destroyers.
maybe.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, like a skeletal ship flies into frame with a platform attached by cables, and it's got a platform hanging below it. And there's
Yep.
2 workers standing on it, and there is no visible safety lines on these guys. They're just like freestyling it up there.
They're Han and Chewie on the hauler from Solo there.
Yeah, basically. But they're riding this thing down, and Cassian, he's watching from the shadows. And we catch up, and we see a bunch of yard workers. I guess they're calling them grapplers.
Oh, is that okay? Is that what they're
according to the descriptive audio? Yeah, they're grapplers.
Sure.
But they're
yeah.
just heaving cable out of this section they just dropped.
Right.
Brasso, he's in there too, and he takes notice of Cassian, so he drops his cables and he walks over. He says, friendly hellos, and Cassian tells him there might be some money coming in, and if it does, I'm out of here.
Oh.
And when Brasso says when, Cassian replies today. But Brasso, he remarks that doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
But Cassian, he says, I'll leave the money that's owed to you with Marva, and if you wouldn't mind, just keep an eye on her if you can.
Right.
And Brasso asks, where you going? But he says, it's better if you don't know.
Back in episode 1, where we were talking about these relationships with people and how, you get the impression that he's put people in positions before.
Yeah.
You get the feeling that he's had to bail before. Like, this doesn't seem like a big, other than I have to leave today.
Yeah.
Does this seem like a big surprise to him?
Not really.
I didn't think so either.
No. But Cassian, he boldly states, I'll be back. I will find a way. And he rushes off. Then we cut elsewhere, and a shuttle ferry is coming in for a landing, and it closely resembles like a modern bus, or
I give it a
passenger car from a train,
bus vibe, or commuter. Yeah, possibly commuter train.
And this is
the seating is definitely commuter train ish.
It's definitely. I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've seen this particular model.
Yeah.
But it's coming in for a landing at Ferrick's terminal, and the passengers begin to depart, and there are what looks to be a couple protocol droids running about, and a terminal worker comes over the announcements and says shuttle ferry discount tickets are available at the dispatch kiosk, so you can get your deals. But Willie, the passenger we met last episode, he's still striking up that conversation with Luthen, and he's continuing to give him travel tips, noting that the hotel is the ultimate Ferrick's gouge.
Talk about, traveling salesman though, right?
Yeah. Make a conversation with anybody.
And he makes a point. I know back in episode 2, he makes a point to say, I'm in propulsion. What do you do? And it's like, oh, I get it. You don't say.
Yeah.
Like totally traveling salesman vibes. Well, you got the phone in his ear the whole time.
Yeah. Can't give up too much info.
No.
But with one last tip, he says, mind your wallet, and the 2 part ways. And another shuttle comes in for a landing as Luthen exits the terminal. He comes around the corner, and what looks to be like a couple of modified Treadwell droids.
Yeah, the heads on them for sure.
Yeah, but they're scurrying about the street. Multiple locals are going about their business, and we find Bix Colleen sitting in the open air bar sipping a drink. And once she catches sight of Luthen, she drops some credits and rushes after him.
It's only after he walks past her that she gets up to leave.
It's a very clandestine,
subtle.
Yeah. Because he doesn't break stride. She quickly falls into step beside him, and she relays that there's a complication. Premor Enforcement has put out a bulletin for someone meeting Cassian's description.
Yeah.
And Luthen notes he's seen it, but it doesn't mention Andor by name, and that they're just looking for someone from Kenari. So Luthen goes on to tell her that Cassian's Imperial prison record says he's from Fest.
Right.
And Bix, she confirms, that's always been his story.
Yep.
But Luthen asks if he's been identified yet, and she says she doesn't think so because not too many people know him. But from the interactions, you kind of get the impression that a lot of people kind of do know him.
Well,
at least in some capacity.
Their whole, we get to it later with the blow up with Marva, but and she even says, "How many people have you told?"
Yeah.
Apparently more than he's let on.
But he questions if Andor killed these men on Morlana, and without saying anything, she shoots him a glance and kind of confirms it. So he then asserts that, we better be quick about it. And Bix tells, Luthen he's in the East Lot, Building 9. And when he asks, do you trust him? Bix responds, he'll be there. And then the two part ways, and a work tram glides up the street, bringing in more workers. So there's like a ton of humanoid workers on this planet.
Doesn't that speak to their relationship, though?
Yeah.
Love lost, but still kind of.
Yeah, he'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we cut to space, and we get the Preox Morlana personal carrier ship as it comes out of hyperspace. And
cool design, though.
It is very, pyramidish.
Yeah, monolithic kind of thing.
If you look at it from the side, maybe a Toblerone bar.
Oh, the Star Wars Toblerone ship. Yep. Oh, wow. That's going to stick.
There you go. But 3 smaller ships depart from it, and inside one of these 3, Sergeant Mosk makes his way to the front, button ahead of the other corpos.
Yeah.
And he eyes up Cyril as they approach the planet. And Cyril, he doesn't return the gaze. He just stares out the front of the ship as turbulence rocks that small craft on its entry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Do you want to talk about the ship for a minute?
Sure.
What do they call them? The
Preox Morlana personal carrier.
Not the carrier, but the
or the little
their little drop ships. They look to be based on the LAAT Republic gunship. In fact,
like a smaller version of it. Yeah.
I thought they were gunships, like the actual Republic gunships. I'm like, oh, Republic gunships. Okay, we're gonna get clones. I'm like, oh no, it's not.
Yeah, they're definitely really small ships.
They do name them. I can't remember what the heck they're called.
Tactical pods.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
But I mean, they serve the similar function where clearly they're meant to drop people in.
Yeah, drop.
And as you say, they're quite small because they've only packed 6 people on that one, and they are
6 plus pilot. Yeah,
almost shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah,
front to back.
Yeah,
cool little design.
Mm-hmm. Back on the surface, we find B2EMO rolling along the main street, and as another droid cuts in front of him, we shift to a flashback, and we get him in his pristine mint condition form.
Oh yeah,
like all shiny, no scuffs, no nothing, and he's rolling through an open door, relaying that there is no air toxicity. And behind the droid, a younger Marva and her partner enter in search of a console unit. Hesitant, she says, remove your mask, as whatever gas was here has burned off and it's safe now.
Yeah.
But he relays it's time, not gas, that they should be worried about. Because they've got maybe 9 minutes to get back to the thing.
Right, to however they got there.
Yeah, they only have a limited window before they have to truck back. But down the corridor, they hear a clanking.
Yep.
And everybody kind of stops. And I'm going to cut here for a second because Clem is played by UK actor and writer Gary Beadle. You may know him from the 2015 film In the Heart of the Sea with Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, that's the Moby Dick story.
Yeah. He played William Bond.
Okay.
He's also been on the long-running series Silent Witness for BBC.
Yeah.
Where he guested as DCI Tony Underhill.
Oh, okay.
And then he did a 2015 appearance on the BBC series The Interceptor.
With the whole thing being kind of shot in London, I mean, it is a super heavy British cast.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everybody who's watching in the UK is like, oh my God, I know all these people.
Yeah.
And we're like, what?
But yeah, outside of that, he's been on a slew of British television programs.
Yeah. So. That was the same with my episode too. With episode 1, all kinds of British talent.
Yeah. But that's him there. Back on the ship, though, Marva relays that there must be at least 6 brand new fuel modules up ahead. But her partner Clem states, we've already got more than we can carry. And Marva, she asked B2, what's the asking price on them? And B2's like, for sale or for barter?
Interesting that he's like a walking eBay.
Yeah, basically.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And Clem, he kind of scoffs at that, but they hear another crash, and Clem insists, we got to go now. But Marva, she moves forward anyway, saying, it could be anything.
Right.
And we cut to the control room, and Cass is in there, and he's in the midst of wrecking anything he can. He's smashing panels. He picks up a pipe and starts beating on the controls. And without him noticing, the door slides open, and Marva and her partner enter the room. And Clem, he catches him off guard and tells him, I like your spirit, but you might not want to be here when they come to clean up.
Yeah, they.
And he's completely caught off guard, and he doesn't understand a word they're saying. And he switches the pipe real quick back for his blowgun, and he starts yelling at Marva and Clem and Canary. And just then, B2 rolls in and announces that a Republic frigate is approaching, and his eyes go so wide. Like, is this the first droid he's ever seen?
Well, that's the question too, right? There's a soft musical change there, and the tone changes when the droid rolls in, and it's almost like they're discovering each other.
Yeah,
Sort of
Wish
hints at
would,
that relationship we talked about in episode one. Yeah.
We cut back to the present, and Sergeant Mosk and Cyril, they're staring forward as they continue their choppy approach to Ferrix. And two of the ships, they bank right while their ship banks left and sets down in a refinery area.
Right.
And the rear ramp lowers, and Sergeant Mosk, he disembarks with his team behind, and there's some Orabesh on the door. Pretty basic. It just reads caution.
Don't hit your head here.
Yeah. Watch your step. But a local worker, he shoots him a dirty look as they pass by, and a couple Fragosians, they go about their tasks too. And the two other teams are confirming over the comlink that they are in position as well. This isn't the first time we've seen Fragosians, though.
No.
They first appeared in the short story The Face of Evil, written by Landry Q. Walker, and it was part of the Journey to Star Wars The Force Awakens multimedia campaign.
Yep.
They did pop up as minor characters in that film, and they've also popped up a lot in Star Wars Resistance.
Yeah.
And the first two episodes of Kenobi.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Apparently, they were named after the McDonald's Fry Guys, and that was thanks to Pablo Hidalgo.
Wow, you're going to be dating us now.
Yeah, so there's another deep cut for you.
Think about it. There's a generation of people that have no idea what you just said.
I know.
The Fry Guys? What? What are they?
They run with the Hamburglar.
Robble.
On another road, though, Luthen, he taps a button on his cane and it retracts into the hilt, and he slips it into his coat pocket. And
I thought that was pretty slick.
If you look at his coat pocket there, he's got some other, tricks and stuff.
That's a very long pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder what else he's carrying. Back in the scrapyard, one of the grapplers remarks that they haven't seen the Blues in a while. And when another asks what they're doing here, the first man replies they're hunting somebody. And Brasa, he watches for a moment before returning to his task because he knows who they're hunting.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Then we cut inside Building 9 on the east lot, and we find Cassian waiting inside. And this is the beginning of the scene that we were given early on Disney Plus Day. And,
yeah. It was also in the special preview. Yeah, the special preview. Yeah.
So he moves towards the door and looks around for a minute before closing it shut. And we shift back again to flashback, where we find Casa desperately trying to keep his distance between Marva and Clem.
Oh, yeah.
And Clem notes that it'll take 9 minutes to get back to the ship, but he's continuing to remove these new fuel cells. And meanwhile, Marva, she's trying to convince Casa that they're trying to help. But he says, let him run. Marva insists, no, they'll kill him. And Clem retorts, they'll kill us if they catch us. But then Clem asks B2 how far the Republic ship is, and he says, it's orbiting.
Yeah, it's in orbit.
So time is getting short. Marva asks B2 for the Drowser, and Clem's eyes go wide. And he again says, no, he's got people here. But Marva says it'll be open season on them once that frigate lands and they find a dead officer.
Yeah, dead.
And full of...
isn't that what she makes the blatant remark about Republic officer?
Yeah. So
she refers to him. That's the big thing,
because they keep referring to, like, the Republic frigate is coming, the Republic people.
But this is the moment where she actually identifies, which we thought maybe was a misidentification, that this person with the CIS uniform and insignia was misidentified as a Republic officer.
Yeah. But
not sure I believe that anymore.
Well, that theory we're going to talk about at the end of this.
Yeah.
I've assembled a little bit there. But continuing on here, Clem still saying no. And Casa, he lunges forward, but Marva catches him and administers the Drowser. And he stops flailing and goes limp. And Clem says, you better think about what you're doing. And as she picks up the boy, she says, there'll be plenty of time for that, but I'm not leaving him here to die.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, in this scene, there's a couple instances where there's no visible damage to those panels where Casa was just smashing.
Oh,
Minor oversight, but it's so
Sure.
quick. If you're not looking for it, you won't miss it. But
like how the fuel cells that they're gathering look exactly like the part that Bix hauled out of that engine in episode 1.
Yep.
It's like they're exactly the same.
yeah, standard design maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Back in the present, though, on Ferrix, the East team, they've landed and radios in that they're on site. And we cut to the interior of Marva's home. And she hears the beeping, goes to answer the door, and finds that it's Cyril, Sergeant Mosk, and the rest of their team. And they tell her they have a warrant for Cassian Andor. And she moves to shut the door, but before she can do it, they just force their way in. So, kind of a brutal police force-ish.
If they've got a warrant, though, I mean,
Yeah,
what did you think was going to happen?
true.
I'm going to close the door on your foot. Nope, that's not happening.
Yep. Meanwhile, Bix, she's returned to her place of business and asks Tim why there's still a pile of stuff out in the alley because he wanted it gone. And he says, "Oh, I just forgot." And setting down a data pad, he gives her a smile and exits. And she kind of gives him a shifty look, a little bit suspicious as he leaves.
Right.
And we cut back again to Marva's, and the corporals are tearing Cassian's room apart. And they force her to watch. And then she tells Cyril that, you guys should be ashamed of yourselves. But he replies, "It can all go away if you just tell us where Cassian is."
I just want to interject for a second here. The course of the 3 episodes, all of the stuff in the present.
Yeah.
Do we feel that this is like over a 3-day span? Like, I would say it's a very short period of time.
Very
like
short.
from the time of the murder
Yeah.
to the we're going to go and arrest him.
Yeah.
Because I don't think in episode 1 the traffic controller was like, it's going to take all night to filter the data. Okay, so you do that all night. The next day, he goes into the other 3 and says, put out a bulletin.
Yeah.
Do you think he got snitched on that same day?
I would think so.
And then
I would
this
think
is
after
maybe
the bulletin came out, he got snitched on.
and maybe this is the following day, or maybe a day or 2 after that.
Maybe.
I feel like it's a very short period of time, though.
Yeah.
However time. I mean, remember, she went to the radio tower at the beginning of episode 1, and he's here.
Yeah.
Episode 2, right? Like he just
again with that hyperspace discrepancy,
Well,
right? Because Luthen shows up in record time.
That's right.
But it feels like it takes these guys,
a bit
longer to get there because they're, giving speeches and everything back in episode 2.
Oh yes, very inspiring.
Yeah. But I'm not fully sure on the time frame, but it's definitely quick.
I think it was more of a curiosity thing. Like the pacing, it speaks to the pacing of the series.
Yeah.
It works for me. I like it.
Yeah. But before long, B2, he rolls back into the place and he's quickly surrounded. And Cyril threatens to remove his power source if he doesn't tell him where Cassian is. And Marva, she tries to comfort the droid, saying, you can't do that. But Cyril barks, shut her up. And one of the corpos, they restrain her and put her hand over her mouth. And then we get a cut back over to Building 9 and Cassian. He radios over to B2, seeing if he's made it back home yet.
Oh, yeah.
And unbeknownst to him, Cyril and the rest, they're just standing there
listening.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yep. So he hasn't learned his first lesson about comms yet. But Sergeant Mosk, he's got a signal tracer and he pulls that out. And Cassian continues talking, telling B2 to tell Marva that he's sorry and make sure that she keeps the heat on because she gets cold. And Mosk, he's reading his device and determines that the signal is coming from the east. And the corpos they're going to leave 2 guys behind to watch out because the crowd's kind of getting restless outside and they depart towards the signal source. Again, Cassian asks if B2 is receiving his messages, but the door at the end of the hall slides open and Luthen is standing there. He steps in and he shuts the door and he calls out to Andor, who steps out from behind some machinery. And he then slides the door closed and asks, "Are you alone?" To which Cassian replies, "I am." And then we cut back across town again and we find the corpos. They've exited Marva's house, but the crowd's gathered and they're beginning to question, what's going on.
Yep.
But Sergeant Mosk, he's just kind of pushing his way through, yelling, "We're serving a warrant. Get out of the way." But Willman, he appraises the situation before running off. And when Cyril asks how far, Mosk tells him about a 10-minute walk, but the East team will secure the site. And I will say this is the longest 10-minute walk in Star Wars history.
Did you put it up against the episode counter?
I did not.
Okay.
But it certainly
it feels long.
It feels really long.
This episode does something really, really well with the corporos, and I'm going to bring it up now because it happens a lot throughout the episode. Is the communication between Sergeant Mosk and all the other teams, the radio procedure.
Yeah,
it was really, really well done. Super, super credible.
Yeah, because they're in constant contact.
Absolutely. I mean, even some of the voice procedure that he uses, it's very familiar. If you've been in policing or if you've been in the military and have used radios and radio procedure, it feels very authentic.
Cool. Back inside the factory, Luthen, he asks, how much? And Cassian replies, 40,000 credits. And says it's not that much for an untraceable star path unit with vector crystals and seals still intact.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so it's mint condition. He goes on to tell Luthen that you can track every Imperial coordinate for 9 radial parsecs. So it's not just a navigation tool.
Well, there you go. So there's our special piece of navigation equipment with special properties.
Yeah.
How awesome is that?
That would be super useful for a rebellion.
To be able to trace other Imperial ships. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the bargaining begins as Luthen asks if it's here, but Andor fires back, is the money here? And Luthen, he's quick to ask, how do I know it works? But coolly, Cassian tells him it's sealed. The moment I plug it in, the value drops.
Yep.
And coldly, Luthen says, so you could be scamming me. But Cassian, he assures him, giving Luthen his word.
Sounds like a Facebook marketplace deal.
Yeah. But what if that's not enough, says Luthen, and Cassian gives a small laugh and tells him, you know where I live. So Luthen, he moves in closer and states, well, if I'm dissatisfied, I could
come back. Yeah.
But the real feeling out process kind of begins here.
Oh, yeah.
And Cassian questions, have you ever been burned by Bix before? But Luthen coyly asks if Andor is even planning on sticking around.
Yeah.
Because we know he's not.
Well, remember I had said back in episode 1 that I thought that maybe Bix had talked up Cassian previously?
Because he keeps going on about, he wants to meet me.
Do you think this plays into what she might have told Luthen about Cassian?
Absolutely.
About his particular skill set and where he comes from and what he's about?
Yeah.
Why else? Why is Luthen so interested in him?
Yeah. Is he just a common thief or is there something more? But we switch over again, and back in Bix's showroom, Salman Pack rushes in and tells her that the corporals are looking for Cassian. And Pack questions what Cassian has done now. And as Tim looks over at them whispering, he's like, probably listening in. But Bix arrives at the conclusion that somebody's ratted him out. And Bix rushes around the counter, insisting someone has to go find him. But Tim stops her, telling her, don't. And she says, don't what?
Yeah.
And then Tim, he's like, he can take care of himself. But Bix Press is asking if she ever told him that Cassian was born on Kenari.
It's the sheepish look that he gives her. And she actually makes a point of saying, you don't know who we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's when she knows, right? That it's him.
Yeah. Because he says he doesn't remember, but she says she does.
Yeah.
And she asks him, how could you do that? And she's just giving him such a disgusted look. Like she knows he's the rat. And she takes off out the door, leaving Pack behind, asking Tim, what did you do? But before he can answer, he chases after Bix.
Yeah.
So he knows he screwed up.
Yeah.
That jealousy has come back.
Big time. Yeah.
Back in the factory, though, Luthen, he unwraps the Imperial NS9 Starpath unit.
Also known as Vader's chest box.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it looks like.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
Says, where you got it? And Cassian snaps back, what's the difference? It doesn't make any difference. And Luthen lays it out that Cassian is either an Imperial spy, a front for who he should really be dealing with, or he's the thing himself.
He's the real deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Cassian says there's only one option. Either you have the money or you don't.
I quite like the flourish of,
and then just like fans it
Yeah.
from his coat pocket. But then he puts it away, still trying to figure Cassian out. And he starts to reveal that he knows a lot more about Andor than Andor realizes, telling him, I know that you've bribed quartermasters to leave valuables on ships before they go into the scrap, but this isn't that.
Well, that's cool. That's a nice little detail that, you to have that confirmation that that's what the scam was between him and Bix,
Yeah.
that they had that thing set up. That's cool.
Yeah.
But that also speaks to the level of corruption within the Empire,
Yeah.
which we already saw a little bit of in Solo, when Han was trying to get on the transport and he's like signed up for the Empire.
Yeah.
They just let him through.
Yep. But Cassian tells him, I just went in myself and I got it. And a little bit skeptical, Luthen questions how, because it was sealed on an Imperial naval base on Steerguard. First time we've heard about that particular base. And Cassian, his patience are being tested to this point. He's like, I got the box, you got the money. What else is there to talk about?
Right.
But Luthen, he delivers a proposition. I'll give you another 1,000 credits if you tell me how you got it. And Cassian laughs it off at first, but Luthen, without hesitation, done.
Yep.
So he tells him plainly, you just walk in like you belong. And he thinks there's still more, but Cassian asserts all you need is a uniform, some dirty hands, and an Imperial toolkit.
Yep.
The Empire is so proud of itself, they don't even care. They're so fat and satisfied that they can't even imagine someone like Andor could get into their house, walk their floors, spit in their food, and take their gear.
I believe him when he says he spit in the food.
Oh, yeah, 100%. But Luthen, he questions, their arrogance is remarkable, isn't it? They don't even notice us.
Yeah, us.
Yeah.
Us.
And this gives Cassian a moment of pause, and he's like, us? I don't even know you. And Luthen, he tips his hand at this point, saying, fair enough, but I know you. And he goes on to tell him that these days will end, that soon they won't just push through the crowds and tell people what to do. Soon the Empire will have to listen to them.
Yeah.
And there's a sense of panic in Cassian's voice now. And he keeps telling Luthen, we should move. You don't want to be caught with this thing. And Luthen reports, they'd hang him for it. They'd take him up Rick's Road and hang him in the square. And that wouldn't be the first time. And then he asked Cassian, isn't that where they hung your father?
Yeah.
So not a good ending for Clem coming up. At this point, Cassian, he pulls his weapon and demands, who are you?
Which, by the way, is Clem's blaster.
Yeah. But he tells Cassian he knows him, and yes, he wants the box, but he's also looking for something more, which he thinks he's found. And being short on time, he says, come with me. Luthen tells him that all the details that we already know, and again, more aggressively, Cassian asks, who are you? But this is the wrong question. The right question is, how much time do they have to escape? Cassian questions why you would want to go anywhere with Luthen, but then Luthen asks, don't you want to fight these bastards for real?
Yeah, the for real part is the part that makes you go, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
No more stealing parts. Let's actually do some damage to the Empire.
Yeah.
And then we cut back out on the street again, and Cyril and his squad, they're still walking through that 10-minute walk. Willman, he takes notice, and Pac comes running up telling him go, before grabbing a pipe and signaling it on a piece of metal. Willman starts beating on another piece, and another local takes notice, and he starts bashing on some metal as well. And the clanging starts, and it's basically setting off like a low-tech alarm, I guess.
I feel like that's almost a reference to they have their own way of doing things.
Yeah.
That they look out for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, with the tight-knit community, right?
You kind of, it makes you wonder, like, the people on Ferrix, maybe they just come from a different walk of life where, backgrounds are, maybe everybody's background is a little gray.
Maybe. Go here for a fresh start.
Yeah, exactly.
Shop owners, they start closing up shop, and back at the factory, Luthen, he asks, what does the clanging mean?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't get an answer because we cut over to the salvage yard, and Brasso, he stares toward the sound, knowing something's about to go down.
Yep.
And when Cyril questions what all the clanging is, Sergeant Mosk, he dismisses it. It's just simple intimidation and nothing more. But the shopkeepers, they keep closing up businesses, and Cassian back in the factory asks how Luthen got here, and he tells me he has a ship nearby the ferry lot. And Cassian then postures, well, maybe Luthen is an Imperial spy.
Mm-hmm.
why else would he be here and knew that they were coming? But Luthen tells him good people are hard to find, and he didn't want to see Cassian tossed on the pyre. So Luthen thought they had more time, but he was wrong. And just then, something inside his coat starts beeping. And
I like that he says, "May I?"
yeah. So he pulls out the little device and he tells Andor that he is his best bet right now.
Yeah.
Pulls out the little, for lack of a better word, scanner, I guess.
I feel like it's like, the radar detector.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like I think that's the device that says, did you bring there's a radio signal that I'm getting. Yeah.
It's kind of weird that it only beeped now, but
it could be a reflection of, they're using
his signal.
The corpos are using their device to get a ping or something.
And they're getting closer.
Maybe.
Yeah. Luthen asks Cassian, are you carrying a comm link? And demands that he give it to him now, which he does. He tosses it over. Luthen, he stomps it on the ground. And he tells Cassian, rule number 1, never carry anything you don't control.
Yep.
And they hear clanking outside and they realize they're surrounded. And then a closer knock comes to the door where they both entered in. And as they're staring it down, we cut again. And the North team is still on approach. But Bix, she comes racing down another stairwell. And behind her, we got some weird signage here. There's both Arabesh and Domabesh.
Domabesh.
Yeah.
Have we seen that before?
Not a lot. And that's not, and it's weird because there's not a full available alphabet out there.
Oh, okay.
So on the left there, it says glow.
All right.
Orabesh.
Sure.
And then on the right, the top line, the best I could make out was Swanwa because I do not, the last character I don't have, but it could be the Y.
Swanway?
Yeah.
Swanway.
And then in Orabesh underneath, it says rate. And the only thing that makes sense to me is if a character is hidden behind the pipe and it reads Swanway Freight.
Oh, that kind of makes sense. And thematically, it fits in with everything else on the planet.
Shipping out parts and whatnot. Back to the thing at hand. Before long, Bix and the North team, they cross paths and they order her to stop. She tries to flee, but they pull their blasters out and, hands up. She knows she's caught. And the East team radios in. Cyril and Mosk are asking if they should engage. And they say, no, wait. Mosk tells Cyril, they have him pinned down. Now's the time to close the snare.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, they're still not rushing. They're still just walking.
Well, this is it. I was just going to remark, the difference between a police force and a military force. Do you notice that Mosk's team, they're just walking with a purpose. No weapons are not drawn.
Yeah.
He's, we're just serving a warrant.
Yeah.
They're acting very much like police.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But back inside the factory, Cassian, he questions, what are they waiting for? And Luthen says reinforcements. He then asks Andor how he planned to get out. And he replies, my exit's gone now. And with the wastelands at least 40 clicks across, Luthen suggests they need a speeder. And Cassian says the best way to get one of those is go west through town. And Luthen, he points out a tunnel and says, where does that go? And he tells him, it goes under the old furnace.
Yep.
And will it get us out of there? Yeah, but it'll go the long way around. So Luthen, again, with those trinkets and whatnot in his pocket, pulls out another small device and he tells Cassian he puts slap charges on the door on his way in. Rule number 2, build your exit on the way in.
Interesting that he's been there long enough to have time to do that.
Well, he did it on his way in.
Well, this is what I mean, though. Like, you get the impression that because the way it's presented that Cassian's there first.
Yep.
Nope.
Oh no, he would have been because Luthen just walking up. He's like, okay, place one here, place one there.
Possibly. I just got the impression from this that Luthen had already been there, had set everything up, and waited and probably watched Cassian come in before he went in.
Maybe.
I guess it still works, though. It works
either way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. He tells Cassian, brace yourself, and hits the button and detonates these charges, blowing up the doors on 2 sides of the building, causing a chain reaction, and a bunch of machinery hanging from the ceiling starts falling. And a corporal, he staggers in from the door, but before they can even get a shot off at him, he collapses on the floor.
I think he maybe took the brunt of the blast.
Yeah. But Luthen beckons Andor, we got to go. But they've left the box behind. So Cassian, he moves to retrieve it, and a little bit more of the machinery starts falling in front of them, and the corpos, they've entered at this point, and one of them opens fire on them.
Yep.
So they retreat, and the two are quickly pinned down behind some machinery, and they start, returning fire. And the more they fire, the more metal falls down. And Cassian, he just rushes forward, and Luthen tells him, forget the box. But guns blazing, he's, advancing.
Well, to Cassian, that's his meal ticket.
Yeah.
He needs it.
Yep. Got to get that for the money, right? So as he advances, Luthen, he shoots out a couple spools of chain, causing one of the corpos to get tangled in it and dragged across the floor. But outside, Sergeant Mosk, he's receiving the transmission that the East team has 2 members down already, and they're taking fire. And he yells back at them, "You're supposed to wait."
Oh yeah, he starts losing his stuff.
Yeah, at this point, they start rushing towards the scene. And back inside, Cassian, he looks back, seeing Luthen gone, and he rushes forward again anyway. But a corpo jumps out to shoot, and turns out Luthen has taken a new position and blasts him down. But as Cassian rushes forward once more machinery comes crashing down, knocking the Starpath unit across the floor. And as he moves to retrieve it, he's hit in the shoulder by fire from a corporal up in the rafters.
Mm-hmm.
So he takes the first shot of this, I guess. Well, no. Takes one of the glancing blows. Because the other guys take lethal.
There's a spot in the firefight where I've watched it twice now, and I'm like, did Cassian just get hit?
Yeah, because he does. He takes it right in the shoulder.
He does. Okay, yeah. But he doesn't slow down for nothing.
No, he just kind of barrels forward.
Like, does he get some armor in that coat sleeve?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe he's been in this situation before. But Luthen, he starts trading fire with the guy in the rafters as Cassian scrambles back, and the shots continue to rain down, just missing him. But more machinery comes loose, and Cassian leaps over, knocking Luthen out of the path of one. But
is that before or after he gets hit by that box?
Right before.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, because as they continue to retreat, he's knocked Luthen down, and as he stands up, he takes what looks like a hook.
I guess a chain hoist or something. Yeah.
Takes that to the head, and Luthen, seeing that he's down, he returns fire a little bit just to give him a couple minutes.
Because getting shot wasn't bad enough. You gotta get hit by a piece of machinery.
Yeah, but then when Cassian's moving again, Luthen, he dives in the tunnel, and Cassian follows right behind, and we see behind them like just everything's coming apart.
Yeah.
Outside, Cyril and Mosk, they continue towards the firefight. They're still not running. They're just like briskly walking. But they get no response from the East team, and the North team is stuck as well because there's no street signs to tell them where to go. And Bix, she sees a momentary opportunity, and she tries to escape, but they stop her cold and slam her against the wall. Back in the factory, though, Luthen and Cassian, they've got through to the furnace room, and they're running through, and they find a gap in the wall that takes them out to the refinery area.
Yeah.
So they've escaped the building, and they give pause just for a minute because Cassian's like, the box is still back there.
He's still, after all that. That's the part that gets me. I'm like, you got shot, you got smashed by a piece of equipment, and you still want to go back knowing that it's into the fire.
Yeah. And like the amount of stuff that fell from the ceiling, there's no guarantee that it wasn't smashed to pieces.
I would have been at the first shot. I'm like, I'm out of here.
Yeah. But he's like, let's go back. And Luthen says, they wouldn't come with just 4 guys. And just then a blaster shot goes right between them. And they return fire at him and run off. Elsewhere, the North team, they're back on the North Stairs lane, and this is the same one from episode 1.
Oh, so it is, yeah. Droid parts.
Because again, droid parts is right visible.
Oh, wait a minute. Now, is that your sign across the street then?
It is.
So did you get the other bit of the language out of that?
I did not.
Oh, that's okay.
You can see that mystery character again, but
yeah. The one that's like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Interesting how they've reused that.
Yeah. But before long, Tim comes rushing down the stairs calling to Bix. And once he sees her, he sees she's injured. She's bleeding out the head from being slammed against the wall.
And now handcuffed to that hole or pipe that's
something.
Sticking out of the,
But he yells out, who did it? And he comes charging forward, but he's shot dead. And he tumbles down. He
yells something like she's hurt.
Yeah. And, Bix is sitting there watching in horror.
Did they, as he's rushing forward, did they even try telling him to stop?
They did. They told him to stop a couple times.
Well, you know
But
what?
once he saw her bleeding, he rushed.
You know, that whole lawful authority and not responding to direction from a police officer. I mean, this is very indicative of the cop tells you to do something and you don't do it.
Yeah. But
Ugh.
you get the impression that they weren't supposed to engage like that, because
No.
the leader of this team, he confiscates the shooter's rifle and like barks at him, go back to the pod and get it in the air. And at this point, they all go off, just leaving Bix handcuffed to the pipe, staring at the poor body.
Like this is somehow his first op or something, and
Yeah.
he's just
Like, oh,
so
goddamn it, he
nervous.
shot a civilian.
So nervous that's how he reacted.
Yeah. The West team, they're continuing towards the scene, and the last member of East team relays they have explosives, and Mosk calls to wait, and he's told there's 2 humans heavily armed and heading their way. And when Cyril asks if they're just going to stand there, Mosk asserts, no, we should split up and pick them off as they run towards us. So these 4 guys, they take their positions and they ready themselves. And Cyril, interestingly enough, he takes position in a shop. And upon hearing a noise, he fires at a couple of fleeing alien clerks in the back. So of them, he's got like the most.
He's a little twitchy too.
Yeah. Yeah. But he's taken the position where he's least likely to engage.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just saw it as he was going for cover and, to get the drop on.
Because like he opens the door, but then he makes a point of closing the door almost closed.
Leaving it open enough to see out.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But not really to engage with anything coming by.
Yeah, I guess so, eh?
Yeah. Back at Marva's place, the 2 remaining corpos they're visibly agitated because of all the clanking. And one, he's just kind of tapping his holster, and the others keep him watch out the window. And Marva, she's like, gets to you, doesn't it? And one corporal, he tells her, shut it. But as the clanging continues, she quietly says, that's what a reckoning sounds like.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you touched on this before you go ahead. The guy that's in the window, that rifle, I couldn't help but notice the rifles that they're carrying look like they're from the same family as Boba Fett's EE3 carbine. Like they have that same kind of like
a cylindrical
thick
shape
barrel, with the skinny scope down the side.
Yeah,
not this. They're definitely not the
exactly,
same, but they could be, in the same family of blasters, maybe.
For sure. We get some really quick cuts now, and we cut to Bix. She's still staring at Tim's dead body. Cassian and Luthen, they've stopped as these little alien clerks, they come rushing by them. And in the salvage yard, Brasso, he's taking his gloves off as he walks away from that
the tac pod.
Corpo pod.
Yeah. He's done something.
Yeah, but you don't know what.
I kind of like that. Again, the relationships, how far, a person is willing to go.
Yeah.
And here's a guy who, here's a guy who we sort of understand has probably been burned by Cassian,
but is still a good friend
more than once. And we actually get to see how far he's willing to go for him, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Marva in a voiceover, she says, you wanted to stop, but it keeps coming. And then we cut to the balcony, and Sergeant Mosk, he takes a long drink from his flask.
Oh, yeah.
And one thing that kind of caught me here, is he Irish or Scottish?
I couldn't say for certain. I'm not really.
Because if he's like the redheaded Irishman,
maybe
having him drink is kind of on the nose.
Oh, yeah.
But something to steady his nerves, I guess.
Not going to lie. I've known a few people in my days in the service to have a flask on them when they're on exercise or in the field, and just a little bit of a little nip. I want to talk about her line about the reckoning thing. She wanted to stop, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
Do you think, to me, that's a memory?
Maybe
she's recalling. You want to bet that the same thing happened when they came for Clem, whoever they were?
Maybe.
I bet that we're going to get a similar, because we saw in the marketing material, we did see what looks like a squad of clones on what I believe is Ferrex.
Okay.
And it's probably them catching up with Clem and Marva and the hanging.
Be weird to get there, but
well, she's heard it before. She knows what it is,
and we know at some point it is coming.
Yeah.
So, but below Mosque in the square, we see assorted astromech droids kind of in for repair. And Cyril, he's watching from his shadowy position.
There's a better shot of that rifle.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I think it's kind of in the same family. It is a very similar look, very similar profile.
Mm-hmm. Back at Marva's, though, she continues on. It's when it stops that's when you really start to want to fret. And one of the guards, he looks angrily back from his window position, but the other guard, he's a bit shaken. He's like, "Why? What happens then?"
Yeah.
And she doesn't answer him. She just kind of grins and sits back and doesn't answer. But over on Rick's Road, the North team, they've moved into position, and suddenly the clanging stops and the area goes silent.
That's part of why I think she's kind of off in her own memories.
Yeah. But back at Marva's, B2, he comes back to life as the two guards, they leave their position and rush off. And Marva, she just remains seated as we see the two silhouettes run past the window. Again, we cut back to Cyril, and he's still staring out that door, but Cassian's blaster enters the frame. And I don't know if this is a first for Star Wars, but he cocks the hammer. Normally, you don't have to cock the hammer on a blaster.
Yeah, it's true.
But it's enough to shake him. And
we do hear all kinds of, like, every time, like in the Clone Wars in the animated series, every time the clones would like raise their rifles, you'd get that kind of like they're readying them. So whether, like, does he physically like thumb a thing?
It sounds like he physically just.
But do we see him?
No.
It could just be, changing a setting like from stun to lethal or something, right?
Maybe, yeah.
Which gives the same effect.
Yes.
Right? I mean, clearly the look on Karn's face, like,
yeah.
Oh,
he knows he's in it now.
Yeah. Oh, doo-doo. Pants go brown.
But Andor tells him, drop your weapon and your comm. And he promptly crushes that under his boot.
Yeah.
And then he asks how many. And he says, I don't know. And Luthen out of the shadows says, kill him.
Yeah.
And Cassian again says, how many? And he's trembling and he answers 12. No, 14. 12 men and 2 officers. And then Cassian, he shoots Luthen a smile and they yank him back from the doorway. And we cut back out and we find the one dude from the North team there. He's running back to the pod.
Yeah, go back to the pod.
Yeah. And it's the guy who shot Tim.
Oh, yeah, for sure it is.
And he rushes in.
Trigger happy new guy.
Yeah. And he jumps in the pilot seat, starts the ignition sequence, and revs the throttle. Craft starts to lift off, but we see that there's a big cable hanging from the bottom of it. And we soon find that it's attached to a really big chunk of salvage. But he doesn't slow down. He just hits the throttle harder. And it causes the metal chunk to start swinging beneath it, giving it that
giant pendulum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it swings hard enough that it gets lodged in a gantry, and the swing effect causes the craft to smash into the side of
the spider pod.
Yeah, basically. But it smashes into the side and it explodes off camera. But then we get to see it from the position of Sergeant Moss.
Oh yeah, he's like,
what? Who was that?
Doesn't he say, was that ours or something?
Yeah. Asks who it was, and was that Cassian? And the North team replies they don't know. And North team suggests they're behind us. But
oh yeah,
Mosk,
the explosion is behind them. Yeah.
And he's like, oh, we're under siege. They're everywhere. And we get a little bit of partial Orabesh on the tank, but it's not enough to read the whole word.
Yeah, that's
just
okay.
A couple letters. But back with Cassian and Luthen, they enter a depot garage, and there's a variety of vehicles here. And we see a couple speeder bikes and something closer to a car.
Yeah.
But Cassian eyes up the car and he looks back at Luthen and says, how many of those slap charges you have left? So he's got a plan. We cut back, and the last member of the East team, he's making his way through the area, and he hears screaming from inside a building.
More like muffled
screaming. Yeah. But he leans in, he clears the area and proceeds in. And inside we find Cyril. He's bound and gagged on the floor. And as the corporal ungags him, he sees a speeder go flying by the door, and he cries out, that's them, they're getting away. And of course, Sergeant Mosk, he opens fire, and Cyril and the East team corporal, they rush into the street and open fire as well. But I don't think we've seen a version of this speeder before.
it's very plainly
Yeah.
Star Warsian.
Yeah, it's definitely not as round as Luke's, but it's more boxy. But
Yeah.
it makes its way down, taking fire. And the North team, they hold their position, they continue to fire, and it explodes and it nosedives into the ground. And the team leaps out of the way as the vehicle flips over and lands on its roof. And it comes crashing down. And when the dust settles, the North team, they kind of move in from all sides. And Cyril, he gives like a little brief smile, and he looks up at Sergeant Mosk, and he's just smiling.
He's
crazy.
beaming. Yeah.
Back, like, job well done. And it's short lived, because before they know it, another speeder comes out, speeder bike, and Cassian and Luthen are on it, heading in the opposite direction. And again, Luthen pulls out a detonator and triggers the remaining charges hidden on that wrecked speeder.
Boom.
And this explosion decimates what's remaining of the North team. And shocked, Cyril, he just stands frozen at what just happened.
Again, this is where, and this really speaks to me, mostly because of my previous career as a medic in the Army. There's casualties, and Mosk immediately goes into manage the casualties.
Yeah,
he starts calling for specifically calls for a Casevac. I think he actually makes a mention of a mass casualty at one point, and I'm like, wow, that is super, super credible.
Yeah. But we follow Cassian and Luther as they speed away beside a host of pipelines. And Cyril, he's like shell shocked, standing there staring at the burning wreckage. And his expression, it tightens up a little bit because he realizes Cassian has escaped.
Yeah.
We cut back to the flashback briefly, and we find Marva carrying a sleeping Casa as Clem. He's got a bunch of gear with him, and B2 as well, carrying fuel cells and more. But the flashback, it quickly fades back into present day, and there's a tear that rolls down Marva's cheek as she sits on Cassian's bed. And B2, he lowers his head as well, and they're all sad. Back on the North stairs, though, Bix, she's still handcuffed and staring at Tim's lifeless body.
Yeah.
But Pack and Willman, they free her, and she reaches out for him, and they drag her like they were.
We gotta go
and drag her away. Yep. And another cut over to the bar. Brasso, he's sitting there with the 1,000-yard stare. So, is he reflecting on what he just did, or?
I think this is sort of the. I mean, how do you punctuate an ending?
Yeah.
An ending for not just the episode, but also for their, like, is this the end? Is this how Cassian exits these people's lives? And we see them in that moment reflecting on, okay, this is the end of our connection to this person.
Or is this just the end of this chapter?
Yeah, I guess so.
You get the feel from them like these guys would all be candidates to go into a rebellion.
You know what? Maybe there is that element too, that reflection of like, what is it all for? What's the, don't we all question sort of, why are we here? What are we doing with ourselves?
Yeah.
That could be, especially for Bix and for Brasso, like, what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we get an aerial view of the speeder bike cutting across various patches of agricultural land.
Nice little glory shot too.
Yeah.
I kind of like that.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of stuff on this planet. But back in the square, Cyril, he continues to stare at the wreckage, and Mosk, he's continuing to call for help. And the sergeant, he turns his attention to Cyril, gets right in his face, like yelling, "We gotta go! We gotta go now!"
Yeah. Again, I mean, there's an element of realism here where they've just basically been attacked with an improvised explosive device, and the first rule of getting attacked by an improvised explosive device is to have a high index of suspicion for secondary devices, because right now they are standing in the kill box.
Yeah,
they do not want to be there.
Yeah,
it's so credible. I know I'm kind of gushing about it, but it's very
Mosk is on point here.
Oh yeah.
Snap the hell out of it. We gotta move. We cut back again, and we see Cassian and Luthen. They've ditched the speeder, and he follows Luthen into the canyon where the ship is hiding, and he just whistles, and the ship starts coming to life. So I don't know what kind
Yeah.
of automation he's got going on there, but
Well, in episode 2, when they're approaching and he's talking to the ship, and it has a very human-like voice. When he's asking about how far
true.
it is, and he's like, nothing closer. The voice talking back to him is very. I mean, droids do have a way, at least the human-ish droids, like C-3PO. I mean, obviously sounds like a person, but
Yeah.
it's such a smooth. It's not like B2 and Solo, who has, yes, it's a female voice, but there's an electronic tone that's over it.
Yeah.
It's a very smooth, natural sounding voice.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an artificial intelligence.
The advancement of Google.
Oh,
maybe. But as they go into the ship, we cut again fast to the flashback, and Marva, she sets Casa on the bed, and Clem, he's stowing the gear in the same spot
yeah.
that Cassian would later use
Back in episode 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So Marva, she jumps in the seat and fires up the ship, and we cut back again.
You really get an idea of how stripped that ship is, because in episode 1, the seats are just bare metal frames. There's nothing on them.
Yeah. Cassian follows Luthen into the cockpit, but he's still, kind of looking around like, oh, last time I got on a ship, life changed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Very Corellian looking on the interior. It's got that Millennium Falcon style round cockpit.
Yeah.
And the interior does look very similar.
Back on Canary, though, the ship lifts off, and Casa, he starts to stir as sunlight streams through across his face, and he squints and he looks forward, and in the moment it kind of echoes it again.
Yep.
Because we find Cassian looking out towards the sun, the same as when Marva took him.
Yeah, it's the same kind of.
Yeah, like twice in succession here, we're going to get 2 shots. Like we see Cassian staring out the front, and in the very next frame, we see Casa staring out the front again. And, Casa, he kind of looks a little bit more hopeful. But Marva, she stares back from the pilot seat, and there's a small dream catcher-like trinket hanging from the roof.
Yep.
I don't know its significance, but the descriptive audio guy felt it was enough to
mention that it's interesting.
And then you can see the parallel shots here in the final cut back. Cassian again is staring towards the sun.
Yeah.
And then we cut to black. So that is this episode.
Episode 3 really picks up the pace. It really
does.
Yeah. It basically closes, and I've said this right from the beginning, that these episodes all together work as a bit of a prologue. If you don't watch them, if you haven't watched them all in one sitting, it is a must. You must do that. Go back and do it.
Yeah.
Stop what we're doing. Stop looking at us. Go back, rewatch all 3, come back.
Yeah, because here comes the theory.
Yes, here we go.
So throughout the course of the first 3 episodes, in the first, or all taking place in the flashback.
Yeah.
In episode 1, when it crashes, you can clearly see yellow smoke billowing out as well as the black
yellow
smoke.
Green kind of something.
And then when we get to the first body that's fallen, the one that's not quite dead, he's not fully yellow. So
no, he's not.
His gas mask must have been on and he got out sort of in time. But then the next guy we find, he's hanging out that exhaust port.
Yeah. And he's as yellow
he
as
didn't
the.
make it out in time.
Yeah.
Inside, in episode 3, we see the guy, and like you had said, he's fully jaundiced.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But then when B2 rolls in, he says that the air toxicity is fine now.
Yep.
And Marva, she goes on to, it's fine. You can take your mask off. Don't worry about it. And Clem is like, it's not the gas that we need to worry about.
Yeah, it's the
time.
The time, yeah.
So, like you had said,
what do we think's going on here?
Is it the Republic actually doing something to the people of Canary?
Well, so that means there was this whole hubbub this week about was that a continuity error? And at first I was happy to write it off as like, I think she meant to say separatist when she said Republic, but
multiple times they go back to that Republic. Like B2 says the Republic frigate is coming.
That makes sense. It totally makes sense. And I even justified it. She actually meant to say separatist, because why else would the Republic show up?
Yeah.
Because they're enemies. Of course it's the Republic showing up in orbit.
Yeah.
But we have this mining accident that may or may not have happened. I know that's an episode 2 thing, but in episode 2 we see that the strip mine, the open pit mine.
Yeah.
Where's the evidence of? There's no evidence of any accident. The machinery's intact.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing there that suggests to me that there was an accident.
Yeah.
Was there really an accident?
Or was it something intentional?
Well, I feel like there's a possibility that ship, looking at the interior of that ship, we'll talk about the interior. Does it not is it not reminiscent of the Starpath unit? The same shiny black.
Yeah.
It's very imperial, like Star Destroyer interior looking.
Yeah.
Is this in fact a Republic ship?
Which it could very well be.
If it is a Republic ship, and I said this in a couple online groups, hey, war is hell. And both sides do despicable things. Even Cassian says in Rogue One, we've all done things in the name, for the rebellion.
Yeah.
What have they done? To me, I feel like this is potentially a Republic black op, and they're trying to deliver a biological weapon to a separatist world under the guise of it's the separatists themselves
doing it.
Because if
favor towards that,
this is what I said, if it ever got out to the general population that their own government
would do that to them,
then it would generate sympathy for the Republic at a time when the Republic is struggling to hold on to member worlds.
Yeah.
I don't know all the details. It's a pretty loose theory, but that's what I'm going with. I think it's a biological weapon, and that is the cover up. Oh, mining accident.
Yeah.
So that nobody finds, there's no reason to go there. Stay away from whatever traces are left of the weapon.
It's dangerous.
Right. And I do think that we are going to get answers to that.
I believe so.
We've said it before. Everything in Star Wars is intentional. And so what I was happy to write off as a continuity error and maybe some bad direction, no.
Looking back, there is like little crumbs all the way through.
There's a reason why she said that it's a Republic officer, even though they are clearly wearing a Confederate patch. Yeah. I don't know. You guys, what do you think? Let us know in the comments. Obviously, hit us up on social media with all of your theories.
Yeah. Next episode comes out Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, episode 4. Do you suspect that it'll be titled right away?
It might be at this point.
They had to have the titles for these episodes before they ever put them up.
Absolutely.
Why they didn't put the titles on them?
Someone forgot.
I don't know.
Minor detail. I don't know. Minor detail. But
well, man, anything you want to finish on before we wrap up for this one?
That's all I got for this one.
Well, it was a great episode.
It was definitely more fast paced.
Absolutely.
And watching all three together, it gets you where you need to be.
I think going forward, 4 through 12, it's going to be a very different looking show, especially now that Cassian and Luthen are now connected.
Yeah.
We get a whole bunch of stuff that we saw in the marketing material that shows Luthen is clearly connected to the Republic, the Senate, and somehow at least we know that he's connected to Mon Mothma.
Yep.
So we'd always joked about wanting to see more of the politics of the government, and looks like or politics of the Republic. Looks like we're going to get some of that. So
I think next episode we're going to get the return of the Chief Inspector, though, and he's going to lose his shit.
I'm very interested to see if he does make a return, and if he does, how is he going to handle it? Because now, I mean, his
flat out went fully against him.
The whole the less that the Empire is looking at us, your man has just attracted a lot of attention.
Yep.
Not only did he go against what you told him to do, he bungled an operation
and cost them the lives of multiple employees.
Right. So it could be a very different the end of his career. It could be a lot quicker.
Yep.
in the Vader sense.
Well, hopefully Vader doesn't show up because it's over for him then.
No. You know what Tony Gilroy said? We're not going to see Vader in this.
Probably not.
I don't think so.
No, we didn't need to see him until Rogue One. So,
all right. Well, listen, guys. thank you for hanging out with us. For this last hour and some. Hope you guys have enjoyed the episode as much as we did. We will be back to cover episode 4 as soon as it drops and we get our notes and stuff together. But for sure, we'll be there covering it all for you the same way that we always do. And until next time, guys, for Fandom Power, my name is Wes.
I'm Andy.
And bye for now, everybody. Hey guys, quick edit here. The world is starting to stabilize again, at least here in Canada. Look, it's Hank. He's back from the hurricane. How are things out there?
They're returning to normal. A lot of down trees. We had no power for 36 hours.
Excellent.
I'm wearing the same shirt as episode 2.
Awful. That is so awful.
Unfortunately, it's like the chips flew off the shelves, and I don't know.
Storm chips.
It's funny that people don't take it as, the thing you hear the most is so what? They're like numb to it.
Right.
And I sort of thought that when I first moved here, over a dozen years ago, that people were living in the shadow of Hurricane Juan, like they were freaked out by a monster that occurred years and years and years ago. And now that's sort of gone into complacency. So when you have the United States Meteorology Department and, these things from the world saying this is going to be a historic event, and they'd use terms like the worst storm Canada has ever seen, and et cetera. And now I don't believe there was any loss of life. Certainly some serious property damage in Newfoundland and PEI. But I would say that, compared to Juan and maybe even Dorian, that this was like a puppy comparatively. And never fun to run out of power. The worst thing for me, if I was going to complain about one personal item, I live on the 18th floor and I got to walk my dog. So I don't know when the last time you guys walked up 18 flights three times in a day.
Yeah, that's not fun.
But I'm not built for that shit anymore.
That is not fun. Do you stop and take a rest along the way?
I did. I was trying to be a trooper the first time, but no, I was on 5, and then I was on 9, and then I was on 12, and then I had to sit down. And my heart was just going boom, 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 boom.
Well, listen,
anyway, let's
we are glad.
We
are so glad that you are okay. And we're super happy to have you back in the show. I'm going to circle back around to loss of life, because that brings me to a conversation that Andy and I have already had the privilege of talking, but I wanted to circle back and revisit this because I know you have some thoughts on this. We kind of went back and forth offline, not on camera. You're here now. I want to go through this, what we are believing, or what we are told is a separatist ship.
Right.
There's something going on here, and I don't know if it's, at first we were all kind of like, did she just say Republic when talking about the dead officer? And it's like, is this just like, did she forget her line? Is this a continuity error? Is this bad direction? What happened here?
Right.
Nothing is by accident.
Nothing.
And originally, well, there it is. Originally, I had said it works if it is a simple continuity error and she actually meant to say separatist, then everything else that happens after that, it works. It's totally fine. And on some level, I don't think it is, but on that level, superficially, if that's all it is, then it works and it'll be fine and we'll figure out what this is going down the road. But how many times have we said everything in Star Wars is intentional?
Heavy.
First
I would
episodes leave us breadcrumbs the whole way through.
I would think any top tier property now, especially sci-fi, fantasy stuff, they're aware that fans watch this so much differently than they ever watched things before.
Yeah.
And so, to the point where there's a Starbucks cup in a Game of Thrones, it's edited immediately. It might have gone out live, but it's edited immediately.
How about our crew member in the hallway?
Right.
Jeans guy in the Mandalorian.
And so it does happen, but I mean, those are mistakes. This is a line of dialogue, and I don't believe it's a mistake for a second.
Okay. Coming back around to that, I have a theory. It's a very loose theory, and it's full of holes. I don't know how we're going to fill them in, but I want to propose that what Marva says is true, that this is in fact a Republic crewed ship. It is a Republic ship. And that this is a Republic black op to deliver what I believe to be a biological weapon.
Oh, that's some dangerous thinking there, Ed.
Listen, war is
Wow.
hell.
Yeah.
War is hell.
Sure
and
is.
both sides, and you've said it yourself, both sides were doing some awful things.
Awful things.
But Star Wars has not really, is not, talking about peeling layers and onions. This is a layer that we've never had the veil pulled back like this before, if that is in fact what's going on here. And it paints a very dark picture, because if that is the case, if this is the reason why, if this, whatever this is, biological weapon, is the reason for the mining accident,
Right.
quotations, mining accident, and why nobody goes here, that has huge ramifications for what we believe to be true about the Republic.
Right. We know it's nothing for the Imperials to say this happened.
Yep.
Instead of this, like, well, at Scarif, just tell them that it was or a Jeddah, tell them it was a mining disaster.
Yep.
So we know that they've blamed them that destroying things on mining disasters as a point of fact. But so if I poke a hole in it, it's not so much poke a hole in it, but that means that if Marva is privy to this black ops,
Yep.
then she's somebody that we're not, you know what I mean? Like, that means that makes her somebody.
She's not squeaky clean.
She's not only is she just like Cassian's adopted mom, what have you. She's somebody else. She's like a high level operative in the know, like
Of some kind.
Who on the other side would know about a black op, but
Why
a
would
Cassian
she...
Andor level spy? And it would make sense that he got those skills somewhere. So you might have a little traction there, my friend.
There might be something there. And I believe that you do as well, because why? Why would Marva concoct an alternate story for his place of birth? Why?
Yeah. See,
what
now
reason
I thought
does
she
have?
I thought she was lying to her friend there, essentially, as a point of urgency. If she's separatist affiliated, it would make sense to make Republic troops feel like vampires.
Yeah.
Like the way we North American media vilified the German and the Japanese in World War II. It would make sense that they would be painted like they're going to kill us when they find us. They're going to kill these children when they find them. I guess they don't know children plural yet. Maybe they think that the boy was on the ship. Do we see them land? Do we see them land their ship?
We don't see them land. We do see them take off.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was going to say, were they on the ship when it crashed?
Superficially, they're taking off with a bunch of power cells. So clearly,
they're
they're good old fashioned raiding.
Sure, it lends itself to the daily business goings of Ferrex as a scrapyard and a salvaging kind of place, and that works all fine and dandy. Now, canonically speaking, Cassian's parents are known to be separatists. So, that whole line about "I've been in this since I was 6,"
right,
has a whole different meaning now. It's not just he's been fighting the Empire; it's he's been fighting a war his entire life.
Right.
But that's not how we're introduced to this character.
No.
He's a lot older than 6 when we meet him, so there's still some there's some
stuff to be filled in.
That may just be one of those, I as the showrunner am not beholden to everything that came before me, and we may or may not stick to, we might massage things for our own needs.
25 odd years, he's held on to the idea of where's his sister, because that's sort of one of his underlying, like, that's why he borrows the ship in the beginning. Like
episode 1, I'm looking for my sister.
This has got to be why he's trying to smuggle and then flip such high value targets, like to make the money to search for his sister. See, he has a noble overtone.
Yeah. In episode 2, we talked about aging Cassian and how old he might be here. And we pegged him at 12 or 13.
Right.
Which puts this sort of, we sort of talked about where in the timeline we think this is, and I think we landed on maybe 19 or even 20 BBY. So just
Sure.
at the end of the war,
Yeah.
we're talking about.
I definitely put his age there, and I
Yep.
sort of put a little sort of plus or minus 3 years on either side of that
Yeah, I
because
agree with you on that.
because he's 35 to 40 in Rogue One.
Sure he is. At that point in galactic history, though, we've got the Clone War is rolling. Well, it's going to end abruptly, but there's a line of dialogue in Clone Wars, or maybe it's in one of the I think it's in the crawling text of Attack of the Clones about worlds are basically hemorrhaging away from the Republic, and the Republic is really trying to hold on to, anything they can.
Yeah.
Is that not motivation enough to, like I was saying before, if the general population in the Confederacy found out that they were being killed by their own government, would that not generate sympathy for the Republic?
Certainly. And let's not forget that a lot of the power structure of the Republic is the power structure that's behind the Empire. So when we know that like Tarkin's not above like using a chemical warfare on why would he have been when he was a Republic officer? So you have some legs there for sure, bro.
I'm interested to see where this goes, but I mean, the smoking ship theory, I guess we can call this, is the biggest. Like,
they show it to us multiple times.
Well, there's a reason why it was part of the marketing in 2 or 3 trailers.
Yeah,
not just
it looks a lot like a Corvette to me, though, like a Corellian Corvette.
Kind of. It's kind of boxy. I presume it's a cargo ship of some kind. But it is what it is, and right now it is a big question mark for me.
Yeah, and it's the most interesting sort of rabbit hole they've given us, for sure.
We'll definitely put a pin in that, and we're going to come back to it, I'm sure, as the show explores this, because they can't not leave that as a continuity error. No, they just can't.